Yeah, yeah. I got copyrighted. They didn't give me a warning though, so I don't know what happened there. And I deleted it, so I didn't get a strike. Hang on.
For the toughest cleaning jobs around the home, trust CLR. With only 1 part CLR and 1 part water, you can easily dissolve built-up calcium
to convert some of your savings into real money. Now, there is a big difference between real.
Hi, Diane. Yeah, they didn't give me a warning. Usually they give me a heads up if there's copyright being played. So when they stopped the stream, I was really worried I got a strike. So I immediately stopped and deleted the video. So I should be okay now.
Money and what we call money, which
shame because I was really enjoying that.
is actually just currency. So our dollar is currency, which fluctuates. Real money, on the other hand, like silver, for example, is a store of value over time. The best way to think of it is like this. If you had saved $1,000 in cash back in the late 60s, the late 1960s, that $1,000 would still be $1,000 technically, but it would buy you significantly less today due to inflation. Now, if you had saved that same $1,000 in silver back in the 1960s, today it would be worth around $28,000. So one of the best ways to protect your purchasing power is in real money, more specifically silver. You can buy and have the metal shipped discreetly to your door. And what most people don't know is that you can actually convert your IRA or even a 401k into physical silver rather than having all of your life savings tied up in the paper fiat system, which is subject to hyperinflation. Go to dailyrenegade.com and click on the Cornerstone Assets Metals banner. This is the only company that I personally trust with this kind of thing. Click on that and sign up to get your free silver report today. One of the financial experts will speak with you to find out the best way to protect your savings going forward in these uncertain times. Hello and welcome to the Sharpening Report. I'm your host, Josh Peck. Today we're going to be...
Wow, look how long his hair is. This is only 7 days old. Look how long his hair is. He's a copycat.
Talking about the Antichrist. So let's just jump right into it. The concept of the Antichrist is one of the most intriguing and controversial topics in Christian theology. There's a lot of differing opinions. Countless debates, discussions, and interpretations throughout history, and its significance continues to be debated today. So the term Antichrist is actually derived from Greek word antichristos, which means opponent of Christ. According to Christian tradition, the Antichrist is an evil figure who will emerge in the end times, working to undermine God's plan and deceive people into following him instead of Christ. Now, the idea of an Antichrist has been a prominent one throughout Christian history, with numerous figures being identified as potential candidates for the role. In the book of Revelation, the Antichrist is often referred to as the beast and is associated with a number of other symbolic figures, including the dragon, the false prophet, symbolic or literal, depending how you take those. I would say that the dragon is more of a symbolic description, but the false prophet, I believe, would be a literal figure. And then the book of Daniel also contains references to an Antichrist figure known as the little horn. So despite the long history of the Antichrist in Christian theology, there's still a lot of debate and disagreement about what the Antichrist represents, who he might be, and what role he'll play in the end times. So here we're going to explore some various interpretations of the Antichrist, drawing on relevant Bible passages as well as the interpretations of scholars and theologians throughout history. So this video is going to be divided kind of into several sections. We're going to begin by examining the biblical passages that specifically reference the Antichrist, including Revelation, Daniel, and various other books of the Bible. We'll then explore the varying interpretations of these passages by historical figures and scholars, both ancient and modern. In addition, we're also going to examine the significance of the Antichrist in Jewish sources and explore various interpretations of the identity of the Antichrist, including those put forth by contemporary scholars and writers associated with like Skywatch TV, Prophecy Watchers, that kind of thing. What are people saying about it today in the futurist camp? And then we'll conclude by discussing the importance of recognizing the variety of interpretations of the Antichrist and emphasizing the need for Christians to still treat each other with love and respect, regardless of our possible differing views on this or really any other topic. So let's just jump into Revelation. Revelation is obviously one of the most fascinating books of the Bible. If I had to pick a favorite, it'd probably be my favorite. And it's inspired countless interpretations and debates over the centuries. One of the most controversial topics in Revelation is the identity and nature of the Antichrist. This figure is mentioned several times in the book, and the descriptions of the Antichrist have led to many different interpretations and theories. So we're going to explore everything Revelation has to say about the Antichrist, including relevant Bible verses and quotes and things. So the term Antichrist is actually not used in the book of Revelation, but there are several descriptions of a figure that's widely believed to be that same person. So in Revelation 13, we're introduced to a beast that comes out of the sea. This beast is described as having 7 heads and 10 horns, and on each head is a blasphemous name, and the beast is also said to have a mouth that speaks blasphemy and to have been given power to make war against the saints and to conquer them. The book of Revelation also describes the Antichrist as a ruler who will be given power by Satan. So Revelation 13, 1 through 2 says, "The dragon stood on the shore of the sea, and I saw a beast coming out of the sea. It had 10 horns and 7 heads and 10 crowns on its horns, and on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw resembled a leopard, but had feet like those of a bear and mouth like that of a lion. The dragon gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority." Revelation 13, 3 through 4 says, "One of its heads seemed to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole earth marveled as they followed the beast. They worshipped the dragon, for he had given his authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, 'Who is like the beast? Who can fight against it?'" And later in Revelation 13, we're introduced to another figure that is often identified as the false prophet. This figure is said to have 2 horns like a lamb, but speak like a dragon. The false prophet is described as having the power to perform great signs and wonders, and he is said to deceive the inhabitants of the earth with his false teachings. The false prophet is also said to force people to receive a mark on their right hand or forehead in order to buy or sell. Revelation 17 describes a woman sitting on a scarlet beast with 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman is described as being dressed in purple and scarlet, and she is said to be holding a golden cup full of abominations and the impurities of her sexual immorality. The woman is said to have a name written on her forehead: Babylon the Great, mother of prostitutes and of earth's abominations. The beast is described as being covered with blasphemous names and is said to be a symbol of the kings of the earth who have committed sexual immorality with the woman. Revelation goes on to describe the Antichrist as a persecutor of the saints who will lead the world in rebellion against God. So Revelation 13, 7 through 8 says, "And it was given to wage war against God's holy people and to conquer them. And it was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. All inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the Lamb's book of life, the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world." Revelation 19 through 20 describes the final battle between the forces of good and evil. The beast and the false prophet are said to gather their armies to make war against the rider on the white horse, who's often identified as Jesus. The beast and the false prophet are said to be captured and thrown alive into the lake of fire. So Revelation 19 verse 20 says, "And the beast was captured, and with it the false prophet who had performed the signs on its behalf. With these signs he had deluded those who had received the mark of the beast and worshipped its image. The 2 of them were thrown alive into the fiery lake of burning sulfur." So overall, the book of Revelation provides a vivid and ominous portrayal of the Antichrist as a powerful and malevolent figure who will deceive and persecute the people of God. Its descriptions of the Antichrist have been the subject, again, of a lot of different interpretations and speculations over the centuries. It continues to be a topic of interest and debate among scholars and believers alike. And there are many different interpretations of the Antichrist in Revelation. Scholars and theologians have debated the identity and nature.
Build mat scenes are designed in Melbourne and are handcrafted with brush textures for your home. Build mat. Experience luxury.
Remote.
Nature of this figure for centuries. Some interpret the Antichrist as a literal person who will arise in the end times and oppose God and his people. That would be the camp that I would fall into. But others view the Antichrist as like a symbolic representation of the forces of evil that are present in the world. So regardless of the interpretation, though, it is clear from the description in Revelation that the Antichrist is a powerful and dangerous figure who opposes God and seeks to deceive and destroy his people. The Antichrist is described as having great power and authority, and he's able to deceive many people with his false teaching and signs and wonders. Now, as Christians, it's important to be aware of the Antichrist and the forces of evil in the world, but we should not live in fear. You know, it is, of course, important to study prophecy, but not be like consumed entirely by it. Rather, it's good to have a healthy balance between end times prophecy and all other lessons that the Bible has to teach. So let's talk about some of these interpretations. By the way, if you're brand new to the channel, please like, subscribe, leave us a comment, let us know what you think. And also head on over to dailyrenegade.com and you can get full videos that you can't find anywhere else. Not all of them are available on YouTube. Also, we are working to improve the site. That is happening right now. Like, we're in the process of it. And we're hoping to launch that soon. And it's looking like we'll also be able to get an app for your phone and TV for Daily Renegades. So some people have said that when they get on the website, they log in, they hit login, and then it takes a few seconds for the page to load, almost to the point where they don't even know if it's logging them in. It's not with everybody, but a few people have said that. It occasionally happens to me too. It's just because there's so many videos on there, and right now we go through Wix, which we are switching from Wix to Ustream. But there's so many videos on there that the site just kind of gets bogged down. Once you log in, though, just hit login, give it a second, it will bring you in. Then once you're in, you should be able to play videos just fine. That's really like the main issue right now. Video playback, I haven't had any problems with it. But we are updating all that. So we'd love your support. We'd love it if you'd come and be a member with us. dailyrenegade.com, and at the very least, please subscribe to this channel and share this around. Okay, so the interpretation of the Antichrist verses in the book of Revelation, again, topic of debate and discussion among historical figures and scholars for centuries. Different individuals and groups have interpreted these verses in various ways, leading to varying ideas about the identity, nature, and role of the Antichrist. So one of the earliest interpretations of the Antichrist in Revelation was held by the early church fathers. So some of these fathers, such as Irenaeus and Tertullian, believed that the Antichrist was a specific individual who would come in the future and lead the world into sin and rebellion against God. They viewed the Antichrist as a political leader who would establish a powerful empire and oppose Christianity. Another interpretation of the Antichrist in Revelation was held by medieval scholars. These scholars viewed the Antichrist.
No, Bas, I was playing copyright material, but they didn't warn me, and they stopped the stream, and I was worried I was going to get a strike, so I hung the stream. It would have come back. It usually comes back. But to play it safe, I stopped the stream and deleted the video anyway.
As a symbol of the papacy and the Catholic Church, which they believed were corrupt and leading people away from the true teachings of Christianity. So this view is particularly prevalent among Protestant reformers such as Martin Luther and John Calvin, people like that. In the modern era, there have been various interpretations of the Antichrist in Revelation. So some scholars view the Antichrist, again, as a symbol of evil and the embodiment of all that is opposed to God. Others see the Antichrist as a metaphor for the struggle between good and evil, with the Antichrist representing the forces of darkness and destruction. Some scholars have also linked the Antichrist in Revelation to current world events and individuals. So, for example, some have identified the Antichrist with political leaders, such as Napoleon or Hitler. Others have suggested that the Antichrist could be a future political figure who will rise to power in the end times. One of the most popular interpretations of the Antichrist in recent years has been the idea that the Antichrist is a figure associated with technology and the digital age. This view suggests that the Antichrist will use advanced technology to control and manipulate people, leading them away from God and towards a dystopian future. So despite these varying interpretations, there are some common threads that can be found in many of them. So most scholars agree that the Antichrist represents a force of evil and rebellion against God. Additionally, many interpret the Antichrist as a symbol of the struggle between good and evil and the ultimate triumph of God over Satan. Revelation 13, 1 through 10 is one of the most well-known passages in the Bible that mentions the Antichrist. And we read through some of that earlier. This passage describes a beast rising out of the sea with 7 heads and 10 horns. And this beast is given power by the dragon, which is identified as Satan. And the beast is described as having blasphemous names on its heads and waging war against the saints. Another passage that mentions the Antichrist is 1 John 2, 18 through 22. This passage describes the Antichrist as someone who denies that Jesus is the Christ and opposes the Father. The passage warns Christians to be aware of false teachers who deny Jesus and lead people astray. And as we said in Revelation 19, verse 20, the Antichrist is described as being defeated by Jesus and thrown into the lake of fire. And this passage suggests that ultimately the Antichrist will be defeated and destroyed by God. The Antichrist verses in the book of Revelation have been hotly debated, lots of different interpretations, some of which we just went through. But at the very least, most agree that the Antichrist represents a force of evil and rebellion against God. But regardless of how somebody may interpret the Antichrist, whether symbolic or literal, I personally lean towards literal.
Good day, not good to see you,
Regardless
mate.
of one's interpretation, it's clear that the ultimate victory belongs to God, who will defeat the forces of evil and establish his kingdom on earth. The book of Daniel in the Old Testament also contains prophecies about the Antichrist, which provide further insight into this enigmatic figure. So in the book of Daniel, the Antichrist is referred to as the little horn and the prince who is to come.
Whoa.
Daniel chapter 7 describes a vision of 4 beasts, which are interpreted as representing 4 kingdoms or empires. The 4th beast is described as terrifying and frightening and very powerful. You get that from Daniel 7, verse 7. It has 10 horns, and then a little horn emerges, which uproots 3 of the previous horns. This little horn has eyes like the eyes of a human being and a mouth that spoke boastfully. So we get that from Daniel 7, 8. And it is said to make war against the saints and to prevail against them. So historical figures and scholars have debated the meaning of the little horn and whether it represents the Antichrist. Some argue that the little horn refers to a historical figure, such as Antiochus Epiphanes, a Greek king who ruled over the Seleucid Empire in the 2nd century BC.
We have a new and exciting range of outdoor heaters.
Jumbuck cast iron fire pit, only $69. Jumbuck fire pit, not just good.
Antiochus Epiphanes is known for his persecution of the Jews and his attempts to force Hellenization upon them, which could be seen as a parallel to the Antichrist persecution of the saints. Others interpret the little horn as a symbol for a future ruler who will rise in the last days. This view is supported by Daniel 8, which describes another vision of a ram and a goat, with the goat representing a king who will arise from Greece and who will grow very great. But at the height of his power, the large horn will be broken off, and in its place, 4 prominent horns will emerge toward the 4 winds of heaven. Get that, Daniel 8:8. From one of these horns, a little horn emerges, which grows in power and becomes great, but then is destroyed. So some scholars identify this little horn with the Antichrist, while others interpret it as referring to a historical figure such as Antiochus Epiphanes or another ruler. The interpretation of the little horn in Daniel is closely related to the interpretation of the beast in Revelation, and some scholars see them as referring to the same figure. One notable historical figure who held a particular interpretation of the little horn in Daniel was Sir Isaac Newton. Newton believed that the little horn represented the papacy, and he saw the papacy as fulfilling many of the prophecies in Daniel and
That's
Revelation.
who I think they
He
are.
argued that the papacy would be destroyed and replaced by a more just and righteous form of Christianity. So Newton wrote pretty extensively on this issue and even provided more detail. Isaac Newton, for those not familiar, is a famous physicist and mathematician and even theologian, and he's known for his extensive research on biblical prophecy in the end times. He believed that the Bible contained like a hidden code that would reveal the future, including the
Hey,
coming of the
Jay,
Antichrist.
good to see you, mate.
So in his book, Observations upon the Prophecies of Daniel and the Apocalypse of St. John, Newton analyzed various passages in the book of Daniel that describe the rise of a little horn that will wage war against the saints and speak blasphemy against God. He believed that this little horn was a symbol of the Antichrist who would emerge in the last days. Newton believed that the Antichrist would be a political and military leader who would arise out of the Roman Empire. He interpreted the legs of iron and feet of iron and clay in Nebuchadnezzar's dream in Daniel 2 as representing the Roman Empire, and saw the 10 horns on the fourth beast in Daniel 7 as representing 10 kingdoms that would arise out of the ruins of Rome. Newton also believed that the Antichrist would be Jewish and that he would rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. He based this on his interpretation of Daniel 9:27, which speaks of a prince who will confirm a covenant with many for 7 years and then put an end to sacrifice and offering. Newton believed that this prince was a reference to the Antichrist who would make a treaty with the Jews and allow them to rebuild the temple. Newton also believed that the Antichrist would deceive people with false miracles and signs. Some people interpret Newton's writings as him saying he believed that the book of Revelation was a symbolic description of the events leading up to the end of the world, and that the Antichrist would use his powers to deceive people and lead them astray. Adding to that, though, it is important to note that in 1690, he wrote a letter to his friend Richard Bentley about his interpretation of the prophecies in the book of Daniel and Revelation. And he stated that he believed that the end of the world was still a long way off and that the Antichrist had not yet been revealed. In the letter, he wrote, quote, "About the time of the end, a body of men will be raised up who will turn their attention to the prophecies and insist upon their literal interpretation in the midst of much clamor and opposition," end quote. Now that sounds a lot like today because we're seeing that a lot. We who take the Bible literally, we know what that's all about. Lots of opposition to that today. However, Newton's interpretation of the Antichrist has been subject to criticism, with some scholars suggesting that he read too much into the text and relied too heavily on his own preconceptions. Nevertheless, his work remains influential in the field of Bible prophecy and continues to be studied and debated by scholars today. So let's talk about the Gospels and epistles. There are references in the Gospels and epistles to a figure who opposes Christ or seeks to deceive believers. These references have been interpreted in various ways by many different people, leading to diverse interpretations of the Antichrist in Christian theology. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus warns his disciples about false messiahs and false prophets who will arise in the end times and deceive many. He tells them, quote, "For false messiahs and false prophets will arise and perform great signs and wonders so as to lead astray, if possible, even the elect." That's Matthew 24:24. This warning has been interpreted by some as referring to the Antichrist or an Antichrist figure who will arise in the end times. Similarly, in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus warns his disciples of those who will come in his name and deceive many, saying, this is Mark 13:22, "For false messiahs and false prophets will appear and produce signs and omens, leading astray, if possible, the elect." Now, this warning has also been interpreted as referring to the Antichrist or an Antichrist-type figure. In the epistles, the Apostle John references the Antichrist in his first and second letters. He writes, quote, "Children, it is the last hour. As you have heard that Antichrist is coming, so now many Antichrists have come. For this we know that it is the last hour." That's 1 John 2:18. John goes on to describe the Antichrist as one who denies that Jesus is the Christ and denies the Father and Son. And that's 1 John 2:22. In his second letter, John warns his readers not to welcome those who do not bring the teachings of Christ, saying, quote, "If
I'm Walt's least impressive grandchild. I don't know what the f to say.
If anyone comes to you and does not bring this teaching, do not receive him in your house or give him any greeting, for whoever greets him takes part in his wicked works. End quote. That's 2 John 10 through 11. Some scholars interpret this warning as referring to the Antichrist or Antichrist figures who seek to deceive believers. Historical figures and scholars have interpreted these references to the Antichrist in many different ways. Some, such as the early church fathers, believed in a literal figure who would arise in the end times and oppose Christ and deceive believers. Others, such as Augustine of Hippo, believed that the Antichrist was a spiritual force or a symbol of the struggle between good and evil. Martin Luther believed that the papacy was the Antichrist, citing references in the Bible to a figure that who would oppose Christ and deceive believers. He wrote, quote, "I am persuaded that in this papacy there is more than enough of the spirit of Antichrist and more than enough of his power and tyranny, so that I am amazed that the world has not long since gone to the devil," end quote. And that's from Luther's Works, volume 41, excuse me. According to some scholars, the term Antichrist is not specifically mentioned in the Gospels or the epistles, but there are passages that can be interpreted as referring to an Antichrist figure. One of the most significant is 1 John 2, 18 through 22, which again, we went through some of this, but we'll just read the whole passage. "Children, it is the last hour, just as you heard that Antichrist is coming. Even now many Antichrists have appeared. From this we know that it is the last hour. They went out from us, but they were not really of us. For if they had been of us, they would have remained with us. But they went out so that it would be shown that they all are not of us. But you have an anointing from the Holy One, and you all know. I have not written to you because you do not know the truth, but because you do know it, and because no lie is of the truth. Who is the liar but the one who denies that Jesus is the Christ? This is the Antichrist, the one who denies the Father and the Son." End quote. Now, some say this passage suggests that there will be multiple Antichrists rather than a singular figure, and that they will be characterized by a denial of the Father and the Son. Some scholars interpret this to mean a denial of the divinity of Christ, while others see it as a denial of the relationship between God the Father and Jesus the Son. Others say that this passage isn't trying to define the Antichrist in Revelation, but rather speaks of the spirit behind the Antichrist and the fact that this spirit is active today. Another important passage is 2 Thessalonians 2, 3 through 4, which says, "Let no one in any way deceive you, for it will not come unless the apostasy comes first, and the man of lawlessness is revealed, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God." This passage is interpreted by some scholars as referring to an Antichrist figure who will oppose God and exalt himself above all other gods, even to the point of taking a seat in the temple of God and declaring himself to be God. Others see this as a reference to historical figures such as the Roman Empire Caligula, rather than an end times Antichrist. Now, in addition to these passages, there are several others that have been interpreted as referring to an Antichrist figure, including Matthew 24, 24, 2 John 1, 7, and Revelation 13, 1 through 18. However, the interpretation of those passages are varied and have been debated among scholars for centuries. One notable interpretation of the Antichrist in the Gospels and Epistles is held by preterist scholars. So preterists believe that many of the prophecies in the Bible, including those regarding the Antichrist, have already been fulfilled in the past. They see the Antichrist as referring to a historical figure, such as the Roman Emperor Nero or the Jewish leader Bar Kokhba, rather than an end-time figure. Another interpretation is held by futurist scholars. This is the camp that I personally would fall into. And we believe that the prophecies regarding the Antichrist are yet to be fulfilled, and it'll be a future fulfillment. So futurists, they see the Antichrist as a future political or religious leader who will rise to power and deceive many people, ultimately leading to a final battle between good and evil. And again, personally, I find the futurist view to be the most convincing, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. But first, I want to backtrack a bit and discuss what ancient Jewish sources say about the Antichrist. So the concept of the Antichrist is not limited to Christian sources, but also exists in Jewish sources, both prior to the Old Testament and in Orthodox Judaism after the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. So the term Antichrist does not appear in Jewish scripture or rabbinic literature, but the idea of an ultimate adversary or evil person who will arise at the end of time is present in Jewish apocalyptic writings. So one of the earliest Jewish sources that mentions an ultimate adversary is the Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in the mid 20th century. So, for example, in the War Scroll, which describes a final battle between the forces of good and evil, there is a reference to a figure called the Lying Prophet, who is likely an early version of the Antichrist. So the text describes this figure as follows, quote, "In his day of trial, he will work great evil against God's covenant, and he will prosper in all that he does. He will be disdainful of truth, and everyone will say he is a prophet of God, but he is not." And that's, if you want the reference, it's 1 QM 12:11 through 12. In Orthodox Judaism, the concept of an ultimate adversary is associated with the figure of Armilus, who is described in various texts as a powerful and evil ruler who will arise at the end of days. So according to the Zohar, which is a central text of Jewish mysticism, Armilus is a descendant of Esau and will lead a great army against the Jews. He will be defeated by the Messiah and will then be killed by God. So the concept of Armilus has been interpreted in various ways throughout Jewish history, and some have suggested that he is a symbol of Rome, Christianity, or Islam. Another figure that has been associated with the Antichrist in Jewish sources is Gog and Magog, who are mentioned in the book of Ezekiel and in the book of Revelation. So in Jewish tradition, Gog and Magog are seen as evil nations that will rise up against Israel in the end of time. In the Talmud, Gog and Magog are identified with Rome and the Roman Empire, and the destruction of Rome is...
Guys, I'm out after this anyway. This has got 20 minutes left.
Seen as a necessary precursor to the coming of the Messiah. So we can talk more about Gog and Magog. The Gog and Magog prophecy in Ezekiel and the passages about the Antichrist in other books of the Bible have also been topics of debate by theologians and scholars throughout history. While some say that they are the same figure, others believe that they are distinct entities. So the prophecy of Gog and Magog is described in Ezekiel 38 and 39. And in this passage, Gog is identified as the leader of Magog, which is believed to be a region in modern-day Russia. Others say maybe around Turkey, other areas. But according to the prophecy, Gog will lead an army against Israel in the end times, but God will intervene and defeat Gog and his army. Some scholars have suggested that Gog and Magog could be the same figure as the Antichrist described in the New Testament. They point to similarities in the description of the two figures, such as their attempts to destroy Israel and their ultimate defeat by God. However, others argue that they are distinct entities, citing differences in their description and the contexts in which they are presented. So for a quick review, in the book of Revelation, the Antichrist is described as a figure who will rise to power and lead a global rebellion against God. In Revelation 13:5-7, it says, "And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations." The Apostle Paul also mentions the Antichrist in 2 Thessalonians 2:3-4, saying, "Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there come a great falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God." Some scholars believe the descriptions of the Antichrist in the New Testament and the prophecy of Gog and Magog in Ezekiel are too different to be the same figure. You know, they argue that the Antichrist is presented as an individual who rises to power through deception and cunning, while Gog is presented as leader of a powerful army. Others, however, suggest that there may be some overlap between the two figures. They point out that both the Antichrist and Gog attempt to destroy Israel, and both are ultimately defeated by God. Additionally, some scholars argue that the passage in Ezekiel is describing a broader conflict that will take place in the end times, and that Gog may be one of several leaders who will rise up against God's people. The Jewish sources also provide insights into the Gog and Magog prophecy. The Dead Sea Scrolls, for example, include a number of apocalyptic writings that describe the end times and the coming of Messiah. One of these writings that we already mentioned, the War Scroll, describes the final battle between the forces of good and evil, in which the Messiah and his followers will triumph over their enemies. In Orthodox Judaism, the Gog and Magog prophecy is seen as a key part of end times. Some Jewish scholars believe that Gog and Magog are not specific individuals, but rather represent the enemies of the Jewish people throughout history. They view the prophecy as a metaphorical representation of the struggles that the Jewish people will face in the end times. So the comparison of Gog and Magog prophecy in Ezekiel to other biblical passages about the Antichrist is also a topic of debate. Some see the two as distinct figures, while others believe they are one and the same. And the book of Revelation also mentions Gog and Magog, further complicating the interpretation of these prophecies. But regardless of whether Gog and Magog and the Antichrist are seen as separate or the same figure, both prophecies speak to the idea of a final battle between good and evil in the end times. In both cases, the outcome is clear. God will ultimately triumph over evil and establish his kingdom on earth. So now let's look at some modern interpretations. Futurism is a theological interpretation of biblical prophecy that believes the fulfillment of certain prophecies is yet to come in the future. So this includes the identity of the Antichrist, which is a topic that's, obviously it's an ongoing discussion in modern times. So many futurist scholars and writers, such as Dr. Thomas Horn, Chuck Missler, L.A. Marzulli, Ryan Peterson, Joel Richardson, have put their own interpretations of who the Antichrist could be. So for those of you who do not know, Dr. Thomas Horn, my good friend, he's the CEO of Skywatch TV, and he's written extensively on the topic of the Antichrist. So Tom believes that the Antichrist will be a figure with supernatural powers who will deceive the masses and lead them astray, and that the Antichrist will rise to power during a time of great chaos and destruction and will establish a new world order. In his book, Apollyon Rising 2012, The Lost Symbol Found and the Final Mystery of the Great Seal Revealed, Tom suggests that the Antichrist could be an ancient figure such as Nimrod or Osiris who will be resurrected in modern times. He also suggests that the Antichrist could be a genetically engineered being or a hybrid of human and fallen angel. Chuck Missler, a very well-known Bible teacher and author, also held, he passed away a few years ago, but he also held a futurist view of the Antichrist. Missler believed that the Antichrist would be a charismatic leader who would rise to power during a time of global crisis. He also believed that the Antichrist will establish a one-world government and will be opposed by a remnant of faithful believers. In his book, The Kingdom, Power, and Glory, The Overcomer's Handbook, Chuck Missler suggests that the Antichrist could be a literal descendant of the tribe of Dan, based on his interpretation of Genesis 49:17. He also suggests that the Antichrist could be a technological being created through genetic engineering or artificial intelligence. L.A. Marzulli, another good friend of mine, a researcher and author on the topics of biblical prophecy and the supernatural, also holds a futurist view of the Antichrist. So Marzulli believes that the Antichrist will be a supernatural being who will deceive the world and lead it into rebellion against God. In his book, The Revealing, Unlocking Hidden Truths on the Glorification of God's Children, L.A. suggests that the Antichrist could be an alien being who is masquerading as the savior of humanity. He also suggests that the Antichrist could be a transhuman being who has merged with technology and is no longer fully human. Ryan Peterson Another good friend of mine. It seems like I'm just talking about all my friends here, but he's an author and researcher on the top. We got to get him on this show for an interview sometime. But he's an author and researcher on topics of biblical prophecy and the occult. He also holds a futurist view of the Antichrist. So Ryan Peterson believes the Antichrist will be a powerful figure who will lead a global religion that's opposed to Christianity. So in his book, Judgment of the Nephilim, Peterson suggests that the Antichrist could be a hybrid of human and fallen angel, similar to the Nephilim of Genesis 6. He also suggests that the Antichrist could be a technological being or a transhuman being who has merged with technology. Joel Richardson, which we've had him on the show before, great guy and a very talented writer, and he's an author and filmmaker on the topics of biblical prophecy in the Middle East. He also holds a futurist view of the Antichrist. So he believes that the Antichrist will be a political and military leader who will rise to power in the Middle East and will lead an Islamic caliphate. So in his book, The Islamic Antichrist, The Shocking Truth About the Real Nature of the Beast, Joel Richardson suggests that the Antichrist could be a Muslim leader who will deceive the world by presenting himself as a peaceful, unifying figure. He cites the Quranic prophecy of a figure known as the Mahdi, whom many Muslims believe will appear in the end times to usher in a period of peace and justice. Richardson argues that this Mahdi figure could be the same as the biblical Antichrist. Another futurist perspective is presented by Chuck Missler, who believed that the Antichrist would be a powerful political leader who emerges from the European Union. He based that on his interpretation of Daniel's prophecy of the 10 toes on the statue in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, which
a lot of people like Macron, the French President Macron, and they also like Erdogan, the Turkish president.
He saw as representing 10 nations that will form a confederacy in the last days, led by the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Going back to Ryan Peterson, he presents a unique perspective on the identity of the Antichrist in Judgment of the Nephilim. He believes that the Antichrist will be a hybrid, like human demon offspring, genetically engineered by fallen angels and their human partners. And he cites biblical passages about the Nephilim or giants as evidence for this theory. It's a phenomenal book, and his follow-up to that too is really good. You should check him out. Overall, the futurist interpretation of the identity of the Antichrist presents a diverse range of perspectives with varying degrees of support from biblical texts and historical sources. And while I'm on the topic, I may as well throw my own work into the ring. As an author, I have written extensively about the Antichrist and various interpretations of Bible prophecies related to the end times. One of my main arguments is that the Antichrist will likely be a figure who seeks to deceive the world by appearing to be a Messiah or Savior. I believe that this individual will emerge on the global scene at the time of great turmoil and chaos and will offer a false sense of peace and security to the nations of the world. And it's very likely that this will be the literal son of Satan, who
100% Vas, the Vatican is Babylon, I agree. Mystery Babylon, not such a mystery.
Apollyon will possess and resurrect after the deadly head wound takes place. I've also explored the possible identity of the Antichrist in some of my other writings. So in my book, The Day the Earth Stands Still, I suggest that the Antichrist may be a political leader who emerges from the Middle East or possibly Europe, who may have some kind of tie-in with an alien/UFO deception and who seeks to unite the world under his rule. This leader may have ties to Islam, but may also appeal to other religious traditions in order to gain support from diverse populations. Another aspect of my research has been to explore the possible role of technology in the rise of the Antichrist. So I believe that technology will play a significant role in the deception of the nations, and that the Antichrist will use advanced technologies to manipulate and control people's minds and behaviors. This could include the use of AI, virtual reality, and other technologies that are currently in development. This, I believe, ties in heavily with the mark of the beast. It's also possible that the Antichrist may have ties to the New Age movement and other forms of occultism, and that he may use these beliefs to deceive people into following him. So overall, my research on the Antichrist and end times prophecy is focused on helping people to understand the signs of the times and to prepare themselves for the coming of the Lord. I believe that we are living in a critical moment in human history, and that the events of the next few years could have profound implications for the future of humanity. And it's my hope that by exploring these topics, we can gain a better sense, a better understanding of what is happening in the world around us, and how we can respond with faith and hope. So, in conclusion, there's a wide variety of interpretations regarding the Antichrist found in both biblical and non-biblical sources throughout history. While there are many different opinions on the identity and nature of this figure, it is important for Christians not to allow these differences to divide us. And instead we should focus on doing our own research and coming to our own conclusions about this very important topic. We must remember that the ultimate goal of studying the Antichrist is not to argue about who is right or wrong, but to deepen our understanding of the Bible and the prophecies contained within it. We should approach this topic with humility, recognizing that our understanding may be limited and that we may not have all of the answers.
Yep.
At the same time, we must also treat each other with love and respect, even if we disagree on a certain interpretation. So Jesus taught us to love our neighbors as ourselves, and this includes those who may have different views on the Antichrist. We can engage in respectful dialogue and debate without resorting to personal attacks or animosity. So ultimately, our focus should be on living out the teachings of Jesus rather than getting bogged down in theological debates. Theological discussion is important, of course, but not at the cost of forsaking the love Jesus commands us to have for one another. We should strive to love God with all our heart, soul, mind, and to love our neighbors as ourselves. By doing so, we can fulfill Jesus' commandment and be the light of the world, shining brightly for all to see. So that is it. That is all I have for you. That is the Antichrist Enigma. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you like this kind of content, go ahead and subscribe. Give us a...
Okay, guys, I'll play one more, and then I'll be out because that'll make it 3 hours today. Which one will I do? Hang on.
All-seeing eye they put on the poster. That's not it. They openly call him... Wow, from the studio that brought you the Avengers comes Doctor Strange. And let me tell you, it is strange indeed, because this is the occult right in your face. Look at the all-seeing eye they put on the poster. That's not it. They openly call him the master of black magic. What is the definition of black magic? Well, it says magic involving the supposed invocation of evil spirits for evil purposes, because there are people that think there's white magic and black magic, and that only black magic is used for evil. Well, this is the good guy. He's the master of black magic. His name is Dr. Strange. So I wanted to look at what that word strange actually means. And by definition, it says unusual or surprising in a way that is unsettling or hard to understand, not previously visited, seen, or encountered, unfamiliar, or alien. So the definition of this hero's name is strange. And that's exactly what happened with Lucifer when he was estranged. He was an alien in the presence of heaven, and he was cast out down to earth. He was...
And what he's missed here is giants don't get into heaven because they're strange flesh to God. So he didn't pick that up either.
Surprising in an unsettling way and hard to understand. I just think that's an interesting connection there. But I'm not just making that connection for no reason. Look at the way this guy looks. This is the personification of the character of Satan. He's throwing up the horns. He's got the all-seeing eye on his chest, and it's called Strange Academy. This is teaching your children to be strange like Dr. Strange. This is not some conspiracy theory that when you put your index finger and your pinky up in the air that they call the horns or the devil horns. Look, you can see it, and it's always associated with the occult. It's always associated with metal and all this death and inverted pentagrams and inverted crosses. All the black metal guys do it. They're not just doing it for no reason. Everything has meaning. Even a metal magazine called Metal Hammer said, horns up. Heavy metal was the fastest growing genre in 2018. They call it the horns. Anton LaVey will tell you straight from his mouth. He is the founder of the Church of Satan. Listen to his own words.
This is the sign of the horns. A cursed sign, the two fingers extended. this way, spread apart for sort of shotgun blast, you know?
Now listen to Jack Black as he prays to Satan with all the celebrities at an MTV Music Awards.
Who wants to pray to the devil with me? Who's in with me? Come on, hey, let me see those horns. Let me see those horns. Metal, 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 metal. All right, now take the hand of the person next to you. Come on, Leighton. Dear Dark Lord Satan.
It seems like Doctor Strange can't not do a satanic symbol with his hands. Look at this as the symbol for 666, thrown up by many celebrities, including the Beatles. And here you will see Doctor Strange throwing that up with both his hands as he casts a spell in the Spider-Man movie.
Let's not change the parameters of this spell anymore. Wow.
That's not the only time you'll see him doing that 666 hand sign either. It's in all kinds of pictures. Now, what does this picture remind you of? All I see is the satanic Baphomet statue. He's throwing up his two-finger salute. Now look at this poster that shows Doctor Strange and the Scarlet Witch, half and half, making up this androgynous image of the Baphomet. This is in your face, blatant occult. You cannot hide this stuff. You cannot make this stuff up. This is right here, obvious. Every single time you see Doctor Strange, his hands are in some kind of satanic hand sign salute. It's over and over and over. If you were going to make a comic book out of the devil, it would be Doctor Strange with his pitchfork on his chest and the big red popped collar and the goatee. This is the devil. He is throwing up the hand signs, he's casting spells, and he is the estranged one, the alien cast out of heaven. Look, Doctor Strange even has a counterfeit sanctuary called the Sanctum Sanctorum, and that is the Holy of Holies in the Jewish temple. This is not something we're just making up. Look, it says right here, now the vast occult powers that is mine, coils focused in my third eye. I shall need that eye for the sinister search which lies ahead. He is on a sinister search. He is in the occult. Now I know what must be done. And once again, the mystic eye shall help me do it. It must go forth on a silent search till I find the one I seek. He seeks help from his all-seeing third eye to go about his occultic business here. And you can't get more blatant than this when he's levitating over an inverted pentagram and he says, if I am to be damned by these decisions, then let it be using all the resources at the disposal of the Sorcerer Supreme, for I am not a pawn. I am the doctor, as he summons every demon he possibly can. Here he is surrounded by tarot cards. This is sorcery, this is witchcraft, and they don't even hide it. The new movie is called The Multiverse of Madness, and I wanted to see what this multiverse was, so I looked it up on the fandom, and it says, the multiverse is the aggregate of all dimensions and parallel realities in existence. Although dimensions are just portions of reality within a universe, there are also parallel universes that coexist with one another. The multiverse is believed to be explained by the eternal inflation system. However, the exact nature of its existence is largely unknown to its inhabitants. This is the spirit realm. We do live in a multi-dimensional world, and we cannot see in the spirit dimension. But in this movie, they're going to try to open a portal to get into that spirit realm, or let something from that spirit realm enter into this realm. So I clicked on multiversal war to see what the definition was, and there's a quote by He Who Remains that says, I ended the multiversal war. To me, the multiversal war is going to be ended by Jesus Christ. And so I looked at that and I clicked on He Who Remains to see who he is. And I see a figure wearing a robe with glowing rays behind his head. And then these aliases say ruler, conqueror, but then it says jerk, devil, dictator, liar, villain, very dangerous person, boogeyman. This is what we always see in these Hollywood movies, is how they take a God figure or a Christ-like character and they just flip it on its head and they make him the villain. He's the villain. And it says that his mission was to preserve the sacred timeline. To me, that is a prophecy that he's trying to preserve. And as I dug into Doctor Strange, I've seen this other villain called Uatu, and he's the Watcher. Uatu was said to be the most powerful being in the galaxy. Who does that make you think of? The Watchers were said capable of making their very errant wishes a reality, like miracles. Watchers can die by simply choosing to, yet are still capable of coming back to life by choosing not to be dead anymore. Jesus laid down his life and he raised it back up. This is a personification of Jesus Christ as the villain, Check out Early Life. It says billions of years ago, the technologically advanced extraterrestrial race known as the Watchers decided it was their duty to help the universe's less advanced races. In their first such experiment proposed by Icor, a delegation of 4 brought atomic energy knowledge to the planet. The Prosilicans accepted the gift but used it to develop nuclear weapons and engage in an auto-genocidal war. Ashamed of their actions, the Watchers vowed never again to interfere in the affairs of other races. Uatu tried to convince Icor, his father, that his deeds were noble despite the outcome, but the words fell on deaf ears. This is just like Christ giving us resources and us using them the wrong way, but they're painting him in a picture like he doesn't even care about what happens to the world. He's just turned his back completely on the world and he will not interfere at all. Now check out episode 4 of What If on Disney Plus, where Doctor Strange, doing his devil horn hand signs, does a spell and has an interaction with this Uatu character.
You can stop this, please. Fix this.
The same way you fixed Christine.
I was wrong.
You were warned.
I know, but the world shouldn't pay for my arrogance. I read about you. Sense your presence. You're a god. You cannot do this.
I'm not a god, and neither are you.
This is Satan talking to God, and he's saying, don't hold the world accountable for my sins. Please think about humanity and save them. And this guy is just like, no, I'm not going to do it that way. I'm not a god, and neither are you. This is painting God as a villain and Lucifer as the hero and the savior of the world, just like we see over and over again.
Every night, I dream the same dream. Then, the nightmare begins. I did what I had to do to protect our world.
You opened the doorway between universes. We don't know who or what will walk through it.
Wanda, what do you know about the multiverse?
He believed it was dangerous.
He was right.
The desecration of reality. Will go unpunished.
We should tell him the truth.
You break the rules. You become a hero.
Wow, there's so much to address in this trailer. It is insane. He is Satan, remember, and he's saying he has the same dream every night. And there he is, standing in this gray, desolate city, looking up at a dilapidated building, standing on a bunch of human skulls and bones. Keep that in mind, because then the next scene shows big, towering doors that open up to a stairway to heaven. And this is a nightmare, he says. He has a dream that the world is being destroyed, and he's seeing the gates of heaven open up before him. This is his reoccurring nightmare. He says he's willing to do whatever it takes to save the world. But what's going to happen? Jesus is going to return, and the righteous are going to be caught up to meet him in the air, and the wicked are going to be destroyed by the brightness of his coming. So the world is going to be completely desolate at that point, and Satan is going to be bound for 1,000 years, as talked about in Revelation 20:1-3. It says, "Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, having the key to the bottomless pit, and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. And he cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal on him, so that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years were finished. But after these things, he must be released for a little while." Look at this phrase, the bottomless pit. This is a translation into English, remember. But when you look at the Greek, the Strong's says it is the word abusos. And that word abusos is a parallel to the Hebrew words tohu and bohu, which mean formless or emptiness. This is the word used in Genesis when it describes the earth as being formless and void. And when you look at Jeremiah 4:23-27, "I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form and void, and the heavens, and they had no light. I beheld the mountains, and lo, they trembled, and all the hills moved lightly. I beheld, and lo, there was no man, and all the birds of heaven were fled. I beheld, and lo, the fruitful
Right now, get the 160 kilowatt LDV T60 Max Auto for the price of a manual from only $38,990 drive away. Get your free auto upgrade at a dealer today. LDV, bring it on.
You will not believe what I'm about to show you. So I don't know if you guys heard about the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games. It's just like the Olympics, but it was held in the UK. I don't know much about it. This is the first time I actually heard about it. It happens every 4 years. And somebody sent me a video, and I was just mind blown at how blatant they are now. They don't even hide this stuff anymore. They don't sugarcoat it. They just come right out. This is a ceremony. They call it a ceremony. This is a ritual done right in front of the masses. Check this out. This is the beginning. They started out the Olympics game or whatever with this cinematic video. Now just watch what's happening in the video. It's soaring through space, shows Saturn, which is it's synonymous with Satan. Then what do we see here? Falling stars falling to Earth. Who is this representing? We're seeing literally fallen stars. It says right there, the death of a star. So these are stars falling to Earth. The Bible says that a third of the stars were cast to the earth, Lucifer and his angels. Now she comes out and she searches for this crystal, one of the fallen stars. She picks it up and she prays to it. We should have audio on here. She's praying to it. The announcer even says she whispers her hopes and dreams. This is what the announcer is saying, that she's whispering her hopes and dreams to this crystal, which is a fallen star. Oh, wait, it gets better. This is just the beginning. So look, all the nations of the world, all the many peoples and nations and tongues and multitudes gathered together. What does this make you think of? Think about it. Many peoples gathered in one place together. I know it's hard to see, but if you look down there where it's circled in red, we're about to get into what that shape is. Think about this. I want you guys to put your Bible glasses on. Many peoples of all nations are gathered in one place in front of this interesting looking tower here. So they start out with a song. I hope this audio is on, but this is Duran Duran. Listen to how this is a family friendly event. This is for all people. Listen to what the song lyrics say. Don't say a prayer for me. Save it till the morning after. Morning after what? What? Don't say a prayer for me. What kind of message is that? And save it till the morning after. The morning after what? They're going to tell us.
Rapture.
Here's that interesting tower. I'm not going to say what I think it is. I'll let them tell you. Listen to what Duran Duran said is the most important lyric in that song that was just performed for families all around the world. Listen.
The most important line in it is the one about some people call it a one-night stand, but we can call it paradise. This idea of let's not think about what it means, let's not think about tomorrow, just think about now. That's the only thing that matters.
The most important line is, some people call it a one-night stand, but we can call it paradise. What's paradise in the Bible? Heaven. A one-night stand, is that heaven in any kind of way? No. And then he says, don't think about tomorrow. Just think about today. That's what matters. Just now. Now is what matters, not your future. Don't think about judgment and things to come and living your life right so that you can endure to the end until Christ returns. Don't think about that. Just think about what matters now. What makes me happy now? Fulfilling the lustful desires. Literally. A one-night stand. Listen to, okay, here's them behind the scenes right after they performed. And listen to what he says about the children that they performed for.
How great was that? What about those kids, though? Well, I had no idea. It was amazing. They were fantastic. Yeah. Tonight United, and that was the moment we voted for, wasn't it? Yes.
Interesting. Oh, wow. What about the kids, though? Oh, we performed that song about a one-night stand for all the kids. And that was what we wrote that song for, wasn't it? This was the moment we wrote that song for. Wow, it might have been another song. They did more than one song. But either way, they sung a song about having a one-night stand and calling it paradise for all those kids. What about those kids out there? That's them. That's them talking right after this performance. Then they do sing another song. Listen to the lyrics of this song. This is the anthem for the new world order to come. And remember, music is going to unite the world. Remember, think back in the Bible days when it said, all must bow to the golden image, right? At the sound of the music. When you hear the music, everyone must bow down to the golden image. This is a parallel for what we're going to be facing in these last days. Now, look, it's all about emotion driven, you know, and everybody's together. It's lovely. I get it. Hey, it's cool to hang out with friends and have a good time. Why do you always have to put these occultic ceremonies in these, whether it's the Super Bowl, the Olympics, or this Commonwealth Games? Why is there always this ritualistic ceremony? Listen to the words of this song. Wow. Are you catching it? Are you guys catching it?
Put your hands in the air.
Put your hands in the air, he said, we can't fight it. No way to fight it. Together, united. Tonight, united. So all the world. Don't forget to like this video, you guys. It really helps the algorithm. Please share this with people. Wake people up. The church needs to wake up. This is not fun and games. We're living in the last days where they're openly televising satanic rituals, glorifying Babylon. I'm going to get into it. This is not just me saying this. They will tell you themselves that this is Babylon, that this is the Tower of Babel. They're going to tell you themselves. Let me tell you, look what we're looking at right now. We're looking at a tower that says, tonight united, all the peoples of the world are gathered together in front of it. Now look at the bottom right. It says, that's the golden bull. Do you see that bull down there? That's Baal.
Oh, yeah.
I'm telling you, they didn't hide the fact that they were uniting under everything. The LGBT agenda, everything was in here. This is the lyrics, tonight united. There's not much to it because the end is just literally the chorus over and over and over. Repetition. Remember, this is hypnosis. Repetition hypnotizes the world and gets them to believe this and accept it and think it's fun and all that. But listen to what they say. Hey, now, if you're a child of the world, we're not children of the world. We're children of the light. If you're a child of the world, born to build bridges and tear down walls. No, God has guardrails. He's got walls, borders these are laws that you should not cross because it will hurt you if you go. Just like when you're driving on the interstate, there's guardrails. Those aren't there to stop you from having fun, right? It's to protect you from falling off, from going into the other lane of traffic. But they're going to tear down walls. We're children of the world. We're tearing down walls. We watch the out mode of the old order because the old order is bad. We want a new world order, don't we? That's what they think. We make a song road to cross all borders. One world order, right? And they say, no, unite, no, tonight. If you want to make a difference, if you want to see a future come around, got to see it from a distance, got to do it walking barefoot on the ground. So look at these lyrics. Remember, child of the world, look what the Bible says, Luke 16:8. And the Lord commended the unjust steward, the lost, because he had done wisely, for the children of this world are in their generation wiser than the children of the light.
Wow.
The children of the world are the lost. And this song is cheering, an anthem for all the nations of the world who are gathered saying, we're children of the world. We want to tear down borders. We don't want the old order. We want a new world order. Look what's happening right before our eyes. We are in prophecy, guys. Deuteronomy 18:9-14 says, when thou art coming to the land which the Lord thy God has given thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. See, we're watching this televised and taking part in these rituals as we watch and enjoy and cheer and are entertained by these pagan rituals. But God's telling us not to do that. And it goes on, it says, for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God doth drive them out from before thee. Thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy God. Revelation 21:8 goes on to say that, idolaters will not have their part in the kingdom. It says, idolaters and all liars, amongst other things, shall have their part in the lake of fire, which burn with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. So idolaters, we're going to show you idolatry here. Blatant, open idolatry. And again, Revelation 22:15 mentions idolatry. Why does it mention idolatry in the book of Revelation? We like to think, oh, idolatry, that was some, old-fashioned stuff. Primitive people worship things, idols. No, this is the book of Revelation. We're living as in the days of Noah, correct? I'm about to show you straight up idolatry. Now, here's where these were the only lyrics that flashed on this tower, where they're the chanting chorus. No way to fight it. We come together tonight united. Look at all the people of the world united with flames and everything. Look what this is. Do you not see? Even the archways, this is an exact replica. They know what they're doing. They're about to tell you out their own mouth. I'm not just putting pieces together that aren't here. You're about to hear from their own mouth that this is the Tower of Babel, that all the nations of the world are united with the Tower of Babel. What's wrong with the Tower of Babel? Let's read it from Genesis 11:6-9. It says, and the Lord said, behold, the people is one. Tonight united. The people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do? Build a tower to heaven? And now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do, because all the people of the world, all the brilliant minds are gathered together, and we can communicate through the internet, and we can communicate all over the world.
Good night, boss. God bless, mate.
There's nothing we can't do. You put all the most brilliant people in the world, and they're going to think of wicked things to do, how to control the world, how to manipulate people's minds. And they left off to build the city. Therefore is the name of it called Babel. So Babylon, the Tower of Babel, is not a good thing. They built this tower and it angered God, and he destroyed the tower and made everybody's language different where they couldn't comprehend each other. Look at it. Tonight united, and all the nations are in front of it. One of the hosts was Joey Lissette, I think is his name. Of course, we got to have the LGBT agenda here, where he's dressed like, like a ballerina. And a picture I found of him right here, and I know BAB, it stands for something else, I'm sure, B-A-B. I don't have to quit. I can use my imagination. I know what it's supposed to mean, I'm sure. But I just think it's ironic that it says BAB for Babylon or Babel, and right under it is the golden calf. The golden calf. In this photo shoot of this comedian who's part of the LGBT lifestyle, he's one of the hosts of the show, because we gotta unite, right? Everybody's uniting together. Now listen to what they say. The announcer's gonna tell you that this is the Tower of Babel. I'm not gonna say it. Listen to the announcer.
That's him at the top of the tower. Birmingham's Tower of Babel, or Tower of Birmingham, if you like.
Did you hear it? Let's hear it again. Oh, let me go back to that. Listen.
That's him at the top of the tower. Birmingham's Tower of Babel, or Tower of Birmingham, if you like.
Isn't this mind-blowing? Like, they're literally saying, Tower of Babel, tonight united, all the nations of the world, we're celebrating this thing. Everybody's dancing, having a good time, listening to the music. This is biblical. We are going right back to biblical times. When at the sound of the music, bow down to the image. We're about to see that. We're literally about to see that. Look at this all-seeing eye at the top of the Tower of Babel. They're not hiding it anymore. Right in your face. What's up with the devil horns? Everybody turns around and does the devil horns as the camera pans around, and they're glowing in red flashing light, showing their devil horns. This is in your face, guys. Take no part in this. That's what this is about. It's about exposing darkness. I'm not watching this being entertained by this. I'm skimming through and finding blatant things to show you guys why we need to be separate from this world. Why God is saying, set no wicked thing before your eyes. He wants to protect us from this. Look at this. What are we seeing here? Well, we're seeing a golden bull, which is Baal, and people praying to it. 2 women praying and another one sitting on top of the beast. There's a woman upon this beast. Don't you see that? There's one on top of the beast. Do you see the colors that are being shown, the lights that are shining on this beast?
Red and black.
And on this woman. What colors are they?
Red and
I'm
black.
not gonna look. I used the eyedropper tool on Photoshop to pick the colors of these boxes right here. I'm not using my imagination and saying, oh, it looks like scarlet, it looks like purple. This is what is happening. The whole thing is orchestrated to paint her white outfit with the color of the lights. As you can see, she's wearing a white outfit, but it looks red because the lights are shining on it. So there is a woman literally dressed with purple and scarlet sitting upon a beast in front of a bunch of people who are wandering after the beast. Look what Revelation says. Revelation 17:4-6 says, and the woman was arrayed with purple and scarlet color and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of the abominations of the filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was the name written, Mystery Babylon. This is Babylon, the Tower of Babel, right? This is Revelation. Revelation is talking about the future. It's talking about now. And yet it's mentioning Babylon. And here we see an arena with the Tower of Babel and a woman dressed in purple and scarlet riding a beast. Is this not clicking? Like, I'm not just making this up. This is right here. She had upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abomination of the earth. And I saw a woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. See, even John, when he saw it, he was like wowed by it. He couldn't believe, like he was mesmerized by her. And that's exactly what we're seeing here. An arena full of thousands of people mesmerized by the woman on the beast dressed in purple and scarlet. While people are literally bowing to Baal. Do you see this? People are sitting in the lotus position with their hands raised, worshiping Baal right in front of the audience as Baal cries blood out of his eyes. And the woman is on the beast. Like, this is just mind-blowing. I cannot believe that it's gotten to this point where it's just right in your face and nobody bats an eye because people aren't studying. People aren't reading the Bible. Actually, I am thankful for the comments that I saw under this video. I saw some highlights of this video and people were calling it out. They saw it. I'm going to show you some of those. But here's just another clip. Look, people raising their hands, bowing, literally raising their hands and bowing to this. 380 people in here. Thank you guys. Share this video. Like it. Get this word out, man. We are living in Revelation. That's what this is all about. Living in the last days. We need to get right. I mean, we need to be living like Jesus is coming back tomorrow. We need to be spreading the good news. We need to be sharing our testimony. We need to be exposing darkness like this. This happened in Birmingham. Coincidentally, Birmingham's flag is the head of a golden bull. Literally, it's the head of a golden bull. This is Baal. And so here's some of the comments. I can't see them, they're pretty small, but people are saying stuff like Baals bow down. All these comments. I couldn't believe this. In this one screenshot, every comment is pointing this out. Like, this is Baal worship, no doubt. So Jeremiah 5:18-24. This is guidance for us. Like as ye forsaken me and served strange gods. These people are serving strange gods. And if you're watching that and you're entertained by that, what does that say about you? You're serving these strange gods along with them, because the Bible says in Romans, don't even be entertained by wickedness. So it says, and served strange gods in your land, so shall ye serve strangers in a land that is not yours. Declare this in the house of Jacob and publish it. That's what we're doing. We're publishing it in Judah, saying, hear now this, O foolish people, and without understanding. Some people are watching this, they have no idea what they're looking at. They don't see it. It's our duty to share what we know, to spread this to people so that they can have eyes to see. Without understanding, which have eyes and see not. They can't see it, which have ears and hear not. Fear ye not me, saith the Lord? Will ye not tremble at my presence? But this people hath a revolting and rebellious heart. That's what we see a lot of right now. People say, oh, don't tell me what to do. You know, I'll do what I want. You know, follow my heart. Break the rules and follow your heart, like Disney says over and over and over. And we wonder why we have a nation full of people who are rebellious, just like this says. And they revolted. Proverbs, so this is us. Proverbs 20:12 says, ears to hear and eyes to see, both are gifts from the Lord. So God has given us discernment, given you guys discernment. You guys are here now. 400 people are here now because they have discernment about what's going on. Praise God. But there's a lot of people who have eyes that can't see and ears that can't hear. And that's why we're publishing this like the Bible says to do. And I want you guys to help spread the word. We can't do this without you. We can't do it without your support. We can't do it without your sharing. All what we do is all dependent upon you guys.
Okay, guys, I'm out. God bless. See you tomorrow.